Welcome back to Welsh Miniature Board Gamer, and today we're going to have a go at making some trash terrain. So stuff that's just got lying around and, nothing specific. So first of all, I found this piece of polystyrene, which is, from packaging, and I thought it was quite an interesting shape. And we're going to use some cardboard and some just bits of junk which I've got lying around, which I knew would be interesting. So the only thing that's actually of any good is this corrugated card. So I'm going to be using that a bit more liberally because I want to keep that. So I'm using hot glue to attach, first of all, a piece of card to cover the hole in the top, because obviously I don't want this hole there. It's going to be a bit weird for gameplay. You could use PVA, it would work, but it would take a long time while you waited. So I cut out some strips to fit. There's some little square gaps here that I wanted to cover up, so I'm just pretty much eyeballing it and cutting them and covering these holes, and they'll look like something like hatches when I'm done. Again, I'm super gluing it down. If you use hot gluing it down, if you use hot glue, just be careful that you don't make your glue go too hot, otherwise it'll melt through the polystyrene. So after all these is all done, as you can see, there is these imprints like this arrow. Well, I don't mind that. I'm going to be incorporating it into the build, so that's okay. So this corrugated cardboard I'm going to use to make it look like screen doors, because corrugated metal, of course, is going to be used in the future. And then just to add some detail, I'm just going to glue some extra cardboard, like coving up on towards the top of the building. So, give it a bit of an extra. I found this little piece of plastic from a McDonald's toy, I think it is. So I'm going to put it on the end of this like landing bay or ramp to make sure that the ships don't fall off the edge. That's my thinking behind it. And that's what we sort of end up with so far. So we have these drinking tops from a kid's bottle. So I'm going to hot glue these down as sort of chimney stacks, if you like. And it kind of looks like this at this point. Then we add these things which hold toys in place, like toy cars, etc. So I figure, if I chop bits off, I can get these in to sit nice. I'm going to indent the polystyrene in order to sink it down a little bit, so it'll sit nicer. And then again, hot glue it into place. So I'm thinking these might be refueling ports or mooring posts, maybe even. Who knows? It's sci-fi. It doesn't have to really make sense. And then again, milk bottle tops, drink bottle tops, which I'm scuffing up with some sandpaper so it'll stick nicer when I paint it. So I'm just going to glue these on the front like big lights or something. And that's kind of what it looks like so far. So then we get some straws. Now these are old straws that I've had lying around, which my daughters have used ages ago, and I've washed them out and I've left them, for future use, and finally I'm getting to use them. So I cut them the length of the building and then hot glue them into the recesses to make them look like some sort of pipes. Now again, when you're using your hot glue gun, make sure your glue gun isn't too hot, otherwise it's going to burn right through it, and that's not going to be much cop. Then I have these cardboard pieces which were from a cat food box, I think, originally. And I figure I can put them on the side here to make them look like plating or something, something they've used to sturdy up the structure. But basically it's just adding another thing for your eyes to sort of look at and not see a polystyrene block, which is really what we don't want you looking and seeing. So I'm going to glue some of these on the roof as well, just some shielding for the roof or some interest of some sort. And then I've got some of these little wooden pieces from when I made some of my TT Combat buildings, and I figure these would be good control panels for like the door. So using a miniature, I figure out roughly how high I want it, and then hot glue it into that sort of space, like so. So these are two that I've made. If you're making one, you always make two. So I'm using a very dark black, almost grey, almost black emulsion. To this, I'm going to mix in some PVA glue just to give it a bit more robustness. And then we're going to just slather this all over the model. Now be a bit more careful when you're going over the cardboard, because like when the cardboard gets really wet, it will start like bubbling and buckling. So we don't really want that. So be a bit more careful going over the cardboard than maybe I am, especially over the corrugated cardboard, because that's quite thin stuff and it will start going a bit strange. But yeah, we're just going to cover every single thing with this colour because it's a good base to start from. Next, I'm going to use one of these sort of rechargeable airbrushes that a friend bought me, which I've never used before. This is my very first time, and I'm going to spray down sort of a mid-tone grey to be sort of a cement colour, if you like. And I'm just going to spray everything. And I must say, it's quite a useful little tool, and you know, for what it does it well, and I'm quite happy with it. So these are the sort of colours that we're going to need: a brush and some sponge. So for the only other colour I need is silver, which I use a proper model paint because that's better. So using a makeup brush, I'm going to sort of heavy dry brush over all the corrugated metal in either this blue or the red, which I've got, which I showed you earlier, just to give it a colour. See, now we're doing the red. I'm just going over the other ones, just to give it a bit of, you know, bit of a colour under the, over the steel rather, over the black. So next I'm going to paint some of these pipes up red. Just paint over them like so. I'm going to do this arrow which I was on about, so it's actually pointing to one of the refueling ports or posts, whatever you want to call them, which I thought that's quite clever, you know. Use your brain, use what's there. And just paint up these ports red also to make them stand out from everything else. So we just go around and pick out anything you want to paint red. So then I go over to the green, and I'm going to paint some of these pipes green so they're not all exactly the same colour. Maybe they're transporting different materials, so they're different colours for the different materials. Next we're using our silver, so this is my actual model paint, and I'm going to give everything that looks like it should be metal a quick dry brush of silver. That includes these little panels, which I think decided are metallic panels which are protecting the building from, you know, excessive wear and damage. So including the ones on the side of the building, just give them a very light dusting. I don't want it to be too obvious, but you know that they are metallic. And of course our crash barrier at the end, looks like it should be metallic too, so I'm giving it a quick dry brush. And the corrugated cardboard. So yeah, I'm going quickly over this, just and very lightly, just to show some chipping has occurred. So it will show through on the pipes, etc. I don't want to go too heavy because really the shiny metal wouldn't last very long before it rusted. So this, I'm painting the hatches with this silver also, you know, to maybe get to, I don't know, the refueling ports, the whatever, tools. And I'm painting the lights on the front of the building the same colour. So next I'm using the sponge with a dark brown, so I think it was a burnt umber, or maybe a raw umber, I never remember which one's which. And I'm going to just tap all of the metal with it, just to give it some rusting effects. And using a sponge really does give you a nice sort of stippled effect as opposed to a brushed on too perfect effect. So yeah, and I'm going to use the same colour just to show some dirt and wear and tear on the bottom and the top of this building where people have moved around, etc. So then I'm going to use a lighter brown, so I think this was a sienna. And I'm going to go over the same areas just to pick out slightly more newer rust, or older rust, whatever the lighter rust is. So then, final touches, I paint around the ports black, give it a nice coat, and then just pick out some details really, which actually I lost the footage, a lot of the stuff I was picking out, so you'll have to excuse me for that. Then I'm going around with just a dirty brush which had black on it, and just smudge up the bottom just to give it some wear and tear. It's the same with down the sides of each of these pillars and along the roof to show some shadow and some accumulation of grime, etc., just to give it a bit more visual interest. So that's it. That's how easy it is to turn these things into something, that you can use on your wargame. Admit it's not perfect, it's not brilliant, it's not shop bought quality, but it's good enough that it's going to work better than, say, a cardboard box or whatever. And I enjoy making these things. And looking on my collection, I have very few sci-fi buildings, so this is a way I can quickly fill my table. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, leave a like, etc., comment, subscribe. But until next time, goodbye from Welsh Miniature Board Gamer.